this is why your title and your introductory paragraph are so, so important to make sure that people understand what they're going to learn and what the value is of the entire post.
Welcome to the Holistic Nutrition Hub podcast, your number one resource to take your nutrition business, marketing, and consulting to the next level. Today, I'll be chatting with health writer and blogging expert, Leesa Klich. Hey, Leesa, welcome back on the show.
Hey, Sean, excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so for the little backstory, we actually recorded this episode a few weeks ago, and my mistake, 100%, I actually misplaced the recording. So really sorry about that, Leesa, but we're here again today to record it again and provide a lot of good tips and value to our listeners.
Yes, awesome.
So for those who don't know you yet, can you give a little bit of your background?
Sure. So I am, my entrepreneurial life has evolved into me being a health writer. So I started with like master's degree and working in corporate for years, and then we moved across the country. Mm-hmm. And I did the holistic nutrition program at Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. And in doing that, I started a business, and I just realized how much I loved the actual creation content more than counseling people on their nutrition personally, like face to face. I guess I just like hiding behind the screen a little bit.
But you're not hiding it for those who watch in video. Now you're not hiding.
Right. Now I'm right here. So, and then I learned, I started creating content and realized that this is not just writing. This is like online content creation, content marketing. So I better learn how to get these articles seen on social media and found in search engines. And it's not just having great content, but making sure people know about it. So I eventually learned, SEO and content marketing and all of that good stuff. And it's always changing. Just like the health research is always changing, the online marketing is always changing too. So, we're all growing together.
No, that's a great story of yours. So to get started, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into, like you mentioned, health blogging, writing, SEO, how to get found, how to get ranked, how to do the right things on the different pages that you have, especially on your articles that you write. So maybe to begin with, why should, in 2020, when there's so much video everywhere, why should people still consider writing a blog on their website to get found and get more traffic?
That is a great question because things change over time. One of the things for having written content is at this time, the search engines can find things based on what is written. It'll look for transcripts, it'll look for show notes, but it doesn't necessarily scan audio or video content for getting found. Another thing is, and I found this totally interesting, something like 85% of people watch social media videos on mute. So having those subtitles is so important now that it's really kind of a no-brainer to just plop those down on the bottom of the page, like all the subtitles, and then all of a sudden you have something written and you have a video and you have subtitles, and it's kind of already done for you. So it also depends on your audience. Right? Like if your audience only wants to listen to you when they're, driving to work or doing the dishes, then maybe audio is the way to go. But when you're looking for more people, having more types of content available just allows you to kind of be more out there in different platforms.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like you said, meeting people where they are, right? Some people might prefer audio in their cars. Some people might want to just, sit down with a coffee and read an article. And so if you can diversify your content and have those different kind of mediums through which you share what you do, you're going to get just more eyes on it and more chances to get found.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that debate of writing articles, so like you said, it's very important from a search engine standpoint. We want people to be able to find that content when they search online. So there's a big question that comes up quite often when we talk about writing content. Is it better to do a lot, as in writing often, posting every week, posting twice a week, or is it better to just focus on the quality of your posts and post less frequently? What's your take on that, Leesa?
My opinion has changed over the last couple of years. So what we've seen in the content marketing world is what's called content shock. So because there's so many people with blogs, etc., and not even just professional, but even personal ones, there's so much content available.
Mm-hmm.
So then the question comes is, how can you get noticed and stand apart? And what do you need to do in order to do that? So one of the things that I've really, I mean, it was a slow transition over the last couple of years, but I really now strongly think that quality over quantity. So it's like you have a certain amount of resources that you put toward content every week or every other week. Instead of putting that toward multiple blog posts and then distributing those, having one great piece of content is going to go farther, especially in search engines. And that's also because Google has, and this is just an example, excuse me, Google has some guidelines available when people are sharing medical information. And what they really want in this medical information is that it's evidence-based and that it's up to date.
Mm-hmm.
So the quality standards for getting found are increasing. So whatever time you would have put toward 2 or 3 small posts, put toward one post with maybe 2 or 3 parts and really promote it like crazy to get it found everywhere.
I think that's a really good point. The idea of creating at least a few kind of cornerstone pieces that you're going to have host on your website that are going to answer many questions that are going to encourage people to stay a long time on your page, which we'll come back on later on. So maybe transitioning into that, the term SEO, you've used it a couple times. For those who don't know what it means, what is it? What is SEO?
Sorry about that. It's search engine optimization. So
Right.
It's basically all of the things that you need to do to get found when people are looking for information on Google or Yahoo or Bing or wherever they are. It's just optimizing for getting found in search.
Right. So like you said, it's very important to know what it means. And with that comes a host of new vocabulary. So for example, keywords. When somebody searches for SEO or SEO tips, they're going to find the word keyword and they're going to say, okay, what is a keyword? So could you explain what a keyword is?
Sure. So a keyword is basically the exact phrase that you type into that Google search bar. So, and this is where it's so interesting and so important to actually see, look for good keywords, because there's a couple of metrics that maybe we'll talk about in a second. But knowing whether people, for example, are typing in, I don't know, let's just pick a nutrition, like let's just say weight loss, new moms, just a total random thing. Whether people are saying weight loss for new moms, or are they saying, how can new moms lose weight? Or I just had a baby, how do I lose weight? Like knowing those terms, which ones have more monthly searches and are easier, they're not as hard to rank for, is really important. So finding the right words can make a difference between getting found and not getting found.
Yeah, so like you're saying, there's I guess different kinds. There's the big fish, the big words that are kind of just the one word by itself. So if you take weight loss, for example,
Yep.
or even nutrition, those are they're not big words in and of themselves, but when you talk about SEO, when you talk about keyword research, those terms are really hard to rank for. It's really hard to get on even the first 10 pages of Google for those words alone. If somebody just searches nutrition, they're going to find the biggest sites, the best sites with the biggest articles, the most references, the more authoritative sites. So what you're talking about is actually what we call long tail keywords, right? So looking for, like you talked about, weight loss for new moms. What is the best weight loss program for a new mom? Those are kind of all variations or subdivisions, subgroups of the word weight loss. Let's take that as an example. And so if you go towards the longer one, quote unquote, you're going to get more chances to get found, right?
Exactly. That's 100% exactly right. Yeah.
So where do you recommend that people go and find those keywords in order to then write content on?
So there are lots of different options. There are free options, like you can use your Google Keyword Planner, you can go to Google Trends. There are places where you can get this information for free. I prefer paid options because I find that it gives me information in an easier to understand format, or it gives me a lot more information that I don't normally get. So a couple of the programs that I use, for example, are Text Metrics or SEO Power Suite. And it's just a different way of finding out. And again, when it all boils down to is you want high monthly searches and low difficulty. And that's really the main thing that you want for a good keyword.
So like you said, those paid tools are going to give you that information, whether it's hard or not, relatively to rank for those keywords. Another good way that I found to find keywords is type in 1 or 2 words into the Google search and then scroll down to the bottom of the page and look into the recommended section. And you'll usually get longer tail keywords than what you typed in. So if you just type nutrition and you scroll down, you'll find some longer options. If you type nutrition for you new moms, you scroll at the bottom, again, you'll find some other variations, and those might be worth kind of checking out to try and find what is the best one to then get found, right?
Exactly.
And so going from there, once you've picked your keyword, let's talk about, let's say, the best weight loss program for new moms. That's the keyword that we picked. And now we want to write about this. So how do you go about crafting your writing, crafting your article so that it reflects what you've chosen as a keyword, and then in turn allows you to rank for that keyword?
Right. So there are lots of ways. And again, when you're investing in fewer pieces of content, you can put all of these things in place to give it a really good chance of ranking. So one thing, of course, is having good resources. So linking out to those authoritative sites to make sure that your information you're providing is evidence-based and up-to-date is going to be one good factor. And it'll also give you lots of fodder of ideas on what subtopics to use. So a couple of the sites that I recommend are the National Institute of Health, so NIH, the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, the Office of Dietary Supplements. I can give you all these links. Medline Plus. So when you're linking out and reading these articles, it will give you a good basis on where to start. I always start my posts with research, so that's where I'm starting from. Then once you have something drafted and you're pretty happy with it, there are certain places in the actual post that you want to include that exact key phrase. So one, of course, is your URL. So, when it's like, holisticnutritionhub.com/whatever, that whatever should be your keyword, only your keyword, not necessarily your whole title, but just your keyword. So definitely put your keyword as your URL. And of course you want to use it in the title, right? And just as an aside, all of these tips that I'm giving on where to put the keyword basically just tells the search engines what this blog post is about. So it's just communicating with the search engines that this is in fact the best post or an excellent post on the internet to answer this question. So we have the URL, the title in your first paragraph, your introductory paragraph, put that in there somehow. And then you want it sprinkled in a few places and in your subheaders, but don't make it like right for people. This is another big Google update from several years ago, is called keyword stuffing. So you don't want to put your keyword in all kinds of random awkward places and have incomplete sentences and poor grammar. You want this to flow. You want this to have good information on that topic for your readers, but you also want to put it in several key places naturally.
Now that makes sense. Maybe a good tip would be to actually go on Google and search keyword variations, and then you have access to tools where you can input the exact keyword that you want to rank for, and that then gives you variations that you can use that won't be keyword stuffing because you're not just copy pasting the same thing 10 times on your page. And I know there's actually tools on, for example, if you have a WordPress site that actually kind of coach you and help you towards getting the right words on the page. Are you familiar with some of those?
Like Yoast?
Like Yoast SEO,
yes.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that for people who don't know what it is?
Sure. So Yoast is, and I'm not an affiliate, it's a great plugin. They have a free version that works fabulously if you're trying to do basic stuff. And basically it gives you kind of a red, orange, or green light based on all of these criteria. So of course, where you put your keyword is key, but also things like how easy is it to read, right? And it also gives you an opportunity to put a meta description in. So a meta description is, when you're searching for something, so you type in your words on Google, and then what comes up isn't the blog posts themselves, but a title and a little description.
Mm-hmm.
That description comes up. You can put that in using the Yoast plugin for WordPress.
All right, so you can edit that text, make sure,
Yes.
again, the keyword appears in that meta description, and then make sure that it's a a quick catchphrase, so that when people just kind of glance over those search results, and they can yours really stands out. And they actually, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they highlight in the meta description the keyword that you might have typed into the Google search, right?
Yep. So it's even easier to see.
Right. I want to come back on something you mentioned before, linking out to authoritative sites.
Yes.
So for those who think that linking out to other sites is a bad idea because maybe they'll lose that that person's just going to leave their site and go somewhere else, why is it actually important to link out to other sites that produce good content, even if maybe those sites might be considered as competitors in your field?
Right. So the sites I mentioned are like authoritative medical sites. By linking out to those, it will help your blog post, your content be authoritative, because those sites are extremely authoritative.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple of things you can do to prevent people from just going there. One is, when you have the link in your site, I know you can do this, I'm pretty sure on all the platforms, make sure when your reader clicks on it, it opens in a new tab.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't replace your blog post with that, it opens it into another tab. So once they're finished with that, they close the tab, your blog post is still there, so you haven't totally lost them. Another trick or tip is to have all your references at the bottom, so they won't even see them until they've read through your awesome content, and then they can go to the bottom and see your references that you have there. You can even make it like an accordion box where they have to click it for the resources to come in to even be visible to them. So there's lots of ways you can get the benefit of trying to build your authority and having evidence-based information without just losing people. So just if you implement these strategies, then it should help.
Now, those are some really good tips. So staying on the on-page SEO topic, we talked about keywords. We talked about where to place your keywords, how to modify it a little bit so it's not always the same. Now let's talk about headlines. How do you write a good, catchy headline?
I use headline analyzers personally. There's a few good software out there, and then it's free online to review your headline. Because if you think about it, the purpose of a headline is to stop the scroll. Right? It's like your email subject line. Somebody opens up their email, they see a ton of emails. Which ones are they going to be inclined to open versus when they're scrolling through their phone, what's going to catch their attention? So one that I use is called Tweak Your Biz, and it's a title generator, and you just put in your word in as a verb or a noun, and it gives you like, I don't know, 100, 200 different title ideas. And another title analyzer is CoSchedule. Where they have a title analyzer on their site. And another trick that I use, I keep saying trick, I don't know if these are really tricks. These are like legit, little experiments. Another little scientific experiment I do is I just, with ConvertKit that I use for my email, it gives you two options to put in subject lines for your email. So you can do A/B testing. So you put in one subject, the other subject, and whichever one gets opened the most for a sample of people goes to everybody. And it just helps you also get to know your audience better and to see what resonates with them. Like, is a question better, or is a statement better? Is it a benefit or a pain? Like all of these things, it helps you get to know people better. And the whole idea is you want them to see your post, right?
Right. You
want to stop that scroll.
Like you said, you want them to stop, you want them to click, and then you want them to go and read through. So next on the list, I want to talk about internal links. So links going from your blog post to other pages, but on your own website. So can you talk a little bit about those, how important they are, and then how to use them properly?
They are really important because, and this is also not just for SEO, but even for user experience. So as a nutrition professional, you have blog posts on all different, areas of your niche and your area of expertise. And when you talk or mention, like you have this blog post and then you're writing this blog post and you mention, let's say you have one on inflammation, and then you're writing a blog post on something else and you mention the word inflammation, you can highlight that and have it link to that first post. You can also have it open in a new tab. Like I do that as well. But in doing so, you're actually giving that old post a little more authority because it's getting a link with the word inflammation. So here's another tip. I don't know why I keep using the word trick. Use the word in your keyword phrase when you're linking to it. So you know how sometimes people say click here and they highlight the click here? Mm-hmm. Don't use that anymore. Instead, highlight the actual phrase that is in the title of that blog post and use that to link to that, open into a new tab. And then what you create there is a network of information for your very savvy readers and ideal clients that keeps them on your website, really shows them that you have a lot of, like, this is your area of expertise. Like, inflammation, this, that, you have all this content on it. It's a great user experience because when you go somewhere and you're interested in something, you might actually want to go and see where this information comes from or learn more about a certain topic.
Right. So you mentioned the importance of people staying on your page. So in the SEO jargon, that's called dwell time. So how much time people spend on your page before they click out or click to somewhere else or just shut down their browser. So what are some of the tricks that we can use? I'll use tricks as well. What are some of the tricks that we can use in order to increase dwell time and make sure that people spend as long as possible on that blog post?
So a couple of things. One is, of course, to have amazing quality content that people are you're answering their questions and you're being helpful and providing value. Another one could be to have, even by embedding things like video or audio into that post, you're actually increasing the time that they're going to be on that post. Mm-hmm. So those are two things that come right off the top of my head. This is why your title and your introductory paragraph are so important, to make sure that people understand what they're going to learn and what the value is of the entire post when they start. So it kind of gives them an introduction. Like, the thing with titles is you have to be careful that you don't want to necessarily be really clickbaity, where it's like the sensational, crazy title and they click through and then it's something totally benign and bland and they're like so disappointed, they're going to bounce right off, and you don't want to do that. So avoiding, clickbaity titles, making sure your introductory paragraph is excellent and really helps them, that the whole post itself meets their needs. And if you can embed other modes, audio, video, whatever in it, that will help as well.
Yeah, like you said, it's important to not only just play by the rules in terms of SEO, but also make sure that it actually reads as a blog post. Because yes, you want to quote unquote please the robots and make sure that when Google reads your page, that they find the information that they want, that they find that this is a well-structured article, that there is a central topic that comes up multiple times through those keywords, but you also don't want to make it robotic to read, right? You want people to enjoy it from beginning to end. I like what you said about embedding videos, because again, that if you can just embed it and not just as a link, but really put the video inside your article, then people will watch that video and then potentially spend those minutes on your article.
Yep, exactly.
Something else that I've found useful is if it's relevant for your article, is embedding a little survey inside your article. And it might just be a yes or no, but then what's interesting is then you display the results directly underneath, or once they've answered the survey, and there's plenty of plugins you can use to do those kinds of things pretty easily. But then again, it shows interaction with the user as well, and then encourages them to stay a little bit longer. So continuing on that topic of videos, maybe as a little aside, as a little supplement to that conversation on blog posts, what are the important things to think about when you're creating a video that might then be used inside a blog post?
I actually do it the other way around, personally. So I like to have kind of my bits of research, maybe some talking points, or something kind of drafted, not necessarily fully scripted, although some people say you should fully script. I don't do that. And then kind of going through it that way with the information first. But then there are some really cool transcription software out there now where you don't have to literally type out or even outsource your transcriptions necessarily. I tried one, I would probably give it about an 80% accuracy, but I did just buy a better one. So I'm hoping that that one is going to work better for transcription. But in doing that, then what you do is you just kind of do an edit, and then you can use it that way. So I do it the other way around. What do you do it a different way around? I'd like to learn.
I think there's different. I think you can go it from either side. I think you can write first and then create a video to support it. You could write an article and then already have a video maybe on a topic, or maybe even on an adjacent topic that's close enough, but not maybe exactly what you're talking about, but that still might bring something to the reader. Or you can go, like you said, you can actually make the video first and then use the transcripts to make your blog. And that kind of circles back nicely to what you mentioned earlier, offering different mediums for the people to consume your content through, right? Maybe they want they start reading the blog, and then if you embed the video of the blog that you made in direct relationship with the blog after the first or the second paragraph, and that person says, oh, you know what, I don't feel like reading, I'm just going to watch it. Well, it still serves its purpose, but you just gave that person two options instead of one to consume what you did.
Right. And the technology makes these so easy now.
Yeah, it's really easy to record. It's really easy to embed, and then all you need is a pretty thumbnail, and then you're on your way.
Yep. Yeah.
So talking about thumbnails, talking about pictures, what is the role of pictures in blog posts, and then how to use them correctly?
Right. So pictures are another, like when you're looking at stopping that scroll, the title is important, but so is the image. So using imagery that is going to get people's attention, and not like everybody's attention. You want the attention of your ideal clients in your niche, right? So knowing what they like and what they enjoy is really important. So trying out different things and seeing what works, but having an image that is a good image, like at the top of your blog post, a good thumbnail for your video or your podcast episodes, but also, and I don't have this with me, I read research done, and this is a couple of years ago, that the best ranked blog posts have an image on average, 350 words. 350 words. So if you think about old blogging, where it was short blog posts, one image, very simple stuff, and that was okay. Now we're looking at longer posts, quality posts. You can have fewer, but have images in it to break it up and make it easy to read. And then one thing I forgot too about the keywords was when you're embedding, when you have the images in your blog post, seeing if it makes sense to put the keyword in the alt text. So don't let your alt text say image 001. You don't want that. You want it to describe the image, and if it makes sense to put your keyword in it, because the reason for the alt text of the images is for readers. So for people who have the text when it reads the text to you, for them to understand what the image is about, that's the objective. It's for ability services. So you want to do that too.
Yeah,
but
like
have lots of images.
Yeah, that's like you said, having the alt text not blank.
Yes.
Blank is the worst option you can have, and then picture -001 is the second worst option you can have. So have something relevant. To even go one step farther, you can actually do the same with the title of your image before you upload it to your website, and ideally that should be different than the alt text as well. So it's all kind of those tiny details, but that then kind of add up together within that realm of SEO to make sure that Google likes what you put out, and then also, like you said, people find what they want. And like you said, when the reader reads the text, it'll read the image as well. And also, if there's an error in terms of displaying the image, the website will actually display the alt text instead. So again, another opportunity, like you said, to place that keyword in there. That's a good piece of advice. So now we always talk about, calls to action. So we always have to put a call to action. So how do you embed a call to action into a blog post?
So there's lots of ways you can do it. And One of the simplest, easiest, but gets a lot of resistance sometimes is just having a pop-up. And basically, if we step back a second, the whole reason for a blog post or an episode of any kind is to get readers and listeners and watchers and to get to know you, like you, trust you a bit more, and subscribe to your email list so you can continue that conversation with them over time. So having a pop-up is one simple thing you can do. You can have one pop-up across your whole website to join your email list. That's always my primary call to action, is to join my email list. But you can also embed forms. You can embed links. And the link could take you to a landing page, or it could take you to a little form where you just ask them for their name and address. Another thing I do for some of my pillar posts, the really long ones, is I'll embed that opt-in box several times, right? So if you have a post that's several thousand words long, you should be doing lots of images. Well, you should also be putting in several opportunities for people who are interested to sign up for your email list. And a secondary call to action after, if your email list is, you've already asked them for their email at least once, is to have them share your blog post on social media or write a comment, something like that. But I would not make that necessarily the primary call to action. But it's important that every blog post, every piece of content should have an objective and a call to action in it in some form.
Like you said, if somebody comes to your website, you want to make sure that if they don't leave having paid you for your services, at least they leave and you get their email in return, so they can continue that relationship that you just established by them coming to your website for the first time. And through that, you want to work on your email list. Another good way, maybe following up on your advice of embedding the sign up form, is to have a handout, some kind of PDF. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be complicated, but something that's a complement to what you wrote, and maybe the next step, the next logical step for the reader, and then offer that as a bargaining tool to get their email in exchange. So you give me your email, I give you this free piece of content, this little extra on the blog, and that usually is a good way to increase your conversion rate instead of just asking for the email. But like you said, no matter what, embed those multiple times if the blog warrants it, if it's long enough, to make sure that you get as many chances as possible to get people to sign up for your email list.
Exactly.
So now we've written that blog, we've embedded those places to capture emails, and it's a great article, it's a great blog. Now I hit publish, and now what?
So that is a huge monumental step, and congratulations on getting to the point where you're totally happy with this amazing post and you hit publish. So the next step is to promote it and to get it in front of as many ideal clients as you can. And not even necessarily just right away, but over the long term. So I like to think of each blog post as being its own kind of foundational piece of content. And from that, all different kinds of content fall out of it. So for example, you want to do an email newsletter, put a little introduction to the blog post link in that email newsletter and get it out to your email list. If you want to take it a step further, you can resend it to people who didn't open your email list the first time with a different subject line, say a day or two later. So you have email content to get people to read it. Now, that relationship is slightly different from your social media followers, because these people have already signed up for your email list. So you can be more personal, give them a little more background information. They already kind of know you and like you. When it comes to social media, I personally, for every evergreen blog post I have, I create 9 unique social media posts, and I schedule them to go out throughout the year. So if you have a blog post that's going to be just as good a year from now as it is today, and you want to be driving people to that multiple times through multiple different social networks, I wouldn't recommend using the same social media posts 9 times. I would recommend unique social media posts, but all going back to this one amazing blog post. And it's easy to do that. You can pull out quotes, you can make images or memes or quote images. You can summarize a section. You can, like, there's so, like, when you have an awesome piece of content, it's so easy to then just pull out different parts to make multiple social media in order for you to get traffic. And this, again, this is something that's changed over the last few years, because in the old days, like literally like 3-4 years ago, you'd have a little blog post with one email and like one, Facebook post, and that would be it. And it's not, the strategy has changed. So promote it. There are people like the Content Marketing Institute and Gary Vee and Derek Halpern, and they're all like, promote, get it out there. Like, write something awesome that you're so proud of that you want to promote all over the place. So I can't emphasize this enough. This is probably, if there's one takeaway from this interview, is you guys got to promote your stuff, do something awesome, and get it out there in lots of different ways.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of my main pet peeves as well, is when people write something or create something and then just let it sit and then wait for people to flock to them, right? It doesn't happen like that. They have to find you first. And unless you have a huge email list and it's enough to just, click send and you get, thousands of views on your blog post on the first day, you're going to have to put in the work. And like you said, writing the blog and publishing the blog is only the first step. And then you really have to do everything that you can. And I love your advice on that micro content. So taking your blog and then cutting it up into different pieces of content, like you said, pulling out quotes that you can put on Twitter, for example, or even having one of the images used as a standalone image on Instagram, with the description being a paragraph or two of the article, and then having the link in your bio in a link tree or something like that. I mean, you can even make a little story on your Instagram, like a live story that you record of you talking about the article and why people should read it. Like you said, always are fair game. You just have to get as many eyes as possible on your article. So maybe transitioning from here, something that you talk about that is important that maybe not a lot of people are aware of are the different social media policies when it comes to talking about health topics and such. And we've probably seen that a lot recently with COVID, and the word in and of itself being heavily restricted depending on what you write. And so what do people need to be aware of in the realm of those social media policies when they post blog posts that are related to health, nutrition, and such?
Right. So it is different for every platform, and that's what's unfortunate. But you have, for example, I'll give you a few examples, like Pinterest. They won't even allow, they will literally just remove any content that has anything to do with COVID coronavirus. You have other platforms that allow you to talk about that, but excuse me again. But they will take down certain things that don't meet their user guidelines or their terms and conditions. And it's not just COVID. I mean, COVID has made this kind of a bigger deal than it was before. But even things like, for example, sites that would make extreme weight loss attractive. Like, not that anybody here would do it. I'm just trying to think of random health things that, health policies that they have. But knowing the policy of the site for every different platform you're on is going to be important, because another thing too, it could get worse than just getting that post removed. I mean, they've blacked people out, they've given people warnings, they've removed entire YouTube channels, for example, that don't meet the guidelines. So it's good to know. Again, not that anybody here would, purposefully, send out such information, but it's definitely important to know that there's a lot of concern about the type of information that's being shared, because they're technically private corporations and they have their own terms and conditions, and they offer accounts for free. So that's why blogging is also a good kind of foundational piece of your content, because you own that website, you own that blog, you own that URL, and that's your foundation. And then you use the other sites to get people to your website.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip for everyone who's listening or watching, because like you said, these social media platforms, we live on them. You know, some of them seem like they've always been here and then they'll be here forever. But I mean, think about MySpace.
Right.
MySpace at the beginning was there, and people thought, you know what, that's the internet. That's how it's always going to be. Next thing you know, today, most, you know, you ask most young people today, they don't even know what MySpace means. So it is important to always bring people back. That's a great tip. Bring people back to your website, to your email list, because you own that data. Right? Anything that's on the social media platforms, you don't. And then we saw that, what was it, 5-6 years ago, with maybe a little less, 4 or 5 years ago with Facebook, when they changed kind of the exposure rules in terms of Facebook pages, because a lot of businesses used Facebook pages to advertise their content or just promote their content for free. And so now what Facebook has done over the years is change that to kind of a pay to play model, where if you have, you might have a great, you know, Facebook page, and you might not even be like a big business or trying to sell something, but if you want to reach people with your page, because so many businesses use it now, you need to pay for ads. Otherwise your reach is going to be about a tenth, if not less, than even your personal profile.
Right, which is why you don't send out just one Facebook post.
Exactly. Also multiply on that side of things. So Leesa, for people who want to, you know, dig a little bit deeper into that, you have some courses available. You have put out a lot of material over the years as well. So can you talk a little bit about what you offer in that realm and where people can find that information?
Right. So we have a bundle of courses. It's actually 2 courses together, which I totally created exactly for health and wellness bloggers. One of them is on what health and wellness bloggers need to know, which we covered some of it in this podcast. So it talks about information, evidence-based information, up-to-date information, a few of the different social media policies. Since then, I've included an Instagram one that was newer than even the course. So I have updated some of that information in that one. And then also the courses Ramp Up Your Visibility, which is very much along the lines of how to use SEO, how to use social media, how to do internal linking in a lot more detail, with videos showing you how to go through and do those. So that is kind of a health blogging bundle that's available. And you can reach me at my website, which is just leesaklich.com. So LEESA klich.com, and in there I have resources when it comes to blogging, when it comes to doing health research and finding health information, and content marketing and strategy, and all of these things in a lot more detail. And I have tons of blog posts, so feel free to peruse and find what you want or search for it, because there's a lot of stuff there. And if you have any questions, just email me. There's a contact page.
Well, Leesa, it was absolutely great to have you on and talk about all those things again, and actually get it out this time. So for all the viewers and listeners, make sure you go and follow Leesa on the different social media platforms. Check out her website. The link to the bundle that she mentioned is in the show notes, so don't miss that link. Leesa, I hope to have you on next time soon, and hopefully we'll do it in one go instead of having to record twice.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sean.
All right. Take care, Leesa. Talk to you soon.
You too.